Well, there's certainly a lot of hype, and indeed, the first chapter after the introduction in my new book is titled, I think, AI hype, because there's a lot of hot air, a lot of excitement about the field, and I think some of that excitement is justified, because ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to get computers to do intelligent stuff, to do the sorts of things that we need our brains to do. And if you think about it, if you look around this tent that we're in today, everything that you can see is the product of human intelligence. It was what made us special. I mean, we weren't the fastest, we weren't the strongest, we weren't the largest, but we were, for better or for worse, the smartest animal around. We grow food, the way that we look after ourselves, healthcare systems, so we live much greater, longer, healthier, hopefully happier and wealthier lives. That was all the product of human intelligence. What if we can, and previous revolutions like the Industrial Revolution, we built machines that could do some of the stuff that our muscles could do, and that was fantastic. That was a great boom to society, a great boom to the wealth of the world. Well, now the one thing that was left for the things that our minds can do, well, what if we've got machines that can amplify what our minds do, like the machines amplify what our muscles do? I think that is ultimately going to be very transformative. In fact, if we're not careful, some of that impact will be very negative. If we're careful, like any technology, I believe we can get immense net benefit, but we have to be careful.
I mean, adding to what Toby just said, I think there's a basic human interest and curiosity about this concept of intelligence to start with. I mean, the hype can exist. Companies will use it to sell their products to kind of get people interested. But I think people are genuinely curious about what makes us human, what makes us intelligent in our own selves. And there's been, a very long, history of literature imagining what intelligence, if it's created by us, kind of us playing God, creating something that looks like us in some ways, right? I think that kind of fueled, that's kind of all in the background. When the hype comes, it kind of sparks that flame.
Much of that literature is warning, is Promethean myths of things how it all will turn out wrong for.
Okay, yeah. So indeed, but still, it's there. Right?
Yeah. You should also have mentioned the central place that language plays in intelligence. I mean, it's not only for communicating to other people, but even for thinking.
Absolutely. I mean, we think in language.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so, if we're going to solve artificial intelligence, one of the things we have to solve is language.
Our friend Jan LeCun basically put language as number 300 on the list of priorities for AI once in a conversation with Chris Manning, famously. So that's maybe, I disagree with you more on this.
Yeah.
What being said, this is going to represent you, and I think you can go from there. But particularly in a university where we have a lot of non-English speakers, I think it is helpful, in fact, for helping students improve their writing. The ability to recognize that something sounds good is different from being able to produce it yourself, particularly with a foreign language that you don't speak. So this actually makes it a bit easier for some of our students. I'll say one last thing. Please, students here, please don't send ChatGPT generated emails or even supported emails to your professors. I get long emails that are pages long, and I just don't read them.
You could get ChatGPT summarized.
Yeah, right. And, just automatically build the code to spot it, translate, respond, But don't do that. We can tell. Were meetings at the university where I met, at the New York University Abu Dhabi, among the faculty, freaking out over
Crisis meetings.
How are we going to handle this? And my favorite response was one of a philosophy department professor, well respected. He basically said, I asked it a few questions, it gave decent answers, it would get a C. That's all I'm gonna give students who use it. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting way of thinking about this. So he was not threatened at all. I think some other people thought that there is a value in education. It's like a tool you can use to help you understand sometimes. but we also know it hallucinates and it could potentially give you wrong directions. If you're confused, you become more confused, possibly, although the risk is questionable there. So I think its role is what I said about earlier. You know, it's a tool. It's like a calculator or anything else that you use. You just have to adjust to not try.
Tools like ChatGPT definitely have a role to play. And indeed, one of my colleagues was telling me the other day, she said, you know what, my grad students are handing in much better work. So this is their research, they're writing out their research. They're actually much smarter than I thought they were. Because the language barrier, they're all speaking English as a second language, the language barrier has been eliminated. It's definitely their ideas, because this is research, right? So they're writing up novel stuff. But suddenly they've got this tool that can allow them to do that much more easily. So it's got a real place role to play. I mean, of course, we have to be careful in terms of, people can use it to hand in their essays. But I always say, we don't actually ask people to write essays because there's a shortage of essays. We don't ask people to write essays because they'll have to write essays in the real world. I mean, as soon as you leave university or school, no one, unless you're a speechwriter for a politician or a journalist, no one writes essays. We get people to write essays as a means of assessing their ability to communicate, their ability to construct arguments, their command for a body of work. Well, maybe we need to measure those things a bit more directly, not indirectly, the lazy way that we've done with essays. And there's lots of really good ways these tools are going to start to be used in education. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, has been working very closely with the Khan Academy. So Khan Academy's been offering online tools for education for a number of years. And they turned ChatGPT into what we would call a Socratic